my friends, and welcome to The Simple Sober Life. I am Joshua Abel, and I help others make small changes in their life so that they can create a life of awesome. Welcome to my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to do so right now so you get notified each time I create a video. It is Sunday, and today I am actually celebrating 6 months of sobriety. Now, it's kind of become routine for me now. I just don't drink, and it's not losing its luster because my life has become so incredible since I made that change in my life, as well as other changes. But I really don't even think about it much anymore. But today is kind of a special day. 6 months of sobriety, if you've ever had to go through that, it's kind of a big deal. So I'm very happy to announce that I am 6 months sober today, and things are going so well, I think I might just keep going with it. But bigger news, I got a car. I finally got a car. That is one aspect of my life that I have been able to finally change. I've been working really hard for a couple of months now to get a car. And in any other circumstance, I would be ecstatic. But there are a few minor problems. So here's the deal. I had set a budget of about $2,500 for a car. Now, obviously, I wanted to go below that so I would have money for insurance, which, because of a DUI and multiple accidents and tickets and things like that, I knew was going to be expensive. So I wanted to make sure to have reserves for insurance. I also wanted to make sure to have reserves for title and taxes and, getting my North Carolina driver's license and all those other fees that go into getting a car. And so I decided to buy from a private party rather than going to a dealership and getting swindled with high interest rates and payments. I just didn't want to make payments because there are other things that I want to put my money towards. I want to buy a new MacBook so I can actually do my editing on my laptop, and I can actually open up a web browser without it taking 3 to 4 minutes. So here's the deal. I went on Facebook Marketplace and I found a couple of different listings, and I contacted them all. And told them that I would, go and look at it yesterday, being Saturday. So I really had my eye on this one. It looked beautiful. Of course, for my budget, I didn't expect, a brand new car or anything perfect like that, but I wanted to make sure that it was in good working order. There were no major mechanical issues. There was heat and air conditioning, and, it didn't look like it was just pulled out of a junkyard. And I found this great looking car. It was a 2005 Volkswagen Passat. And I love Volkswagen. I've had one before. I absolutely enjoyed driving it. It was reliable. I never had any problems with it. And so Volkswagen is one of those brands that I'm actually becoming quite loyal to because of those factors. And so this was the car I wanted. And unfortunately, I am once I have my mind set up, I am dead set on getting what I want. Maybe to a fault. Maybe to the fault where I overlook maybe some red flags. So Brian and the family and we all piled into their car, and we head over to a small town about an hour away. Well, I guess it was more about a half hour or so, to check out this car. And we pull into the driveway, and there it is. And, for the money that they were asking, it looked perfect on the outside. It's this dark navy blue color. There are a couple little scratches here and there, but no big deal. And so as I walk alongside of the car and kind of peer inside, I noticed that the back seat the back seat is torn, and it's leather interior, and it's a 2005, so I expected it to be kind of worn and a little cracked, but there is a huge, kind of tear on the back seat. And I'm like, okay, I can look over that. I can get a seat cover and it'll be fine. And I never ride in the back seat of my own car, so, it'll be like nothing. So the guy comes out, and it's a young kid, maybe early 20s at the most. But first, an old man popped out of the door, just to investigate who's here. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's an older guy. That means the car has probably been well maintained and taken care of and things like that. And then, following suit, the young kid comes out, and, he's the guy I'm dealing with. Turns out the old man, his father, I presume, didn't speak any English. And so, I was dealing with a kid who had apparently made the post on Facebook. Now, the post on Facebook read, it's in perfect working order, has heating, has air conditioning, has heated seats, it's been well maintained, and yada, 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 yada. All these glowing things about the car. Which makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't put a car that you want to sell up in and say, you know what, this is a piece of crap that breaks down on me every 3 feet, and the tires are bald, and and that. I mean, why would anyone do that unless they were just going to part it out? So I'm dealing with this kid, and he seems like a nice kid, just trying to help his family out and whatnot by putting this up and selling the car for him. The tires on this thing are brand new, which kind of piqued my interest. I was really worried about getting a car and then having to drop another $400 or $500 on tires. Tires were brand new. So he hands me the keys and says, yeah, go on, take it out for a test drive and things like that. So Brian and I hop in the car, and it's pouring down rain. And I get in the car, and it's a little dirtier than I would have liked. There's a Sharpie marker on the wheel. The handle, the passenger handle is kind of loose. There is no door on the glove box. I'm like, okay, all right. So those are all little cosmetic things. I can get past that. We pull out of the driveway and we take it, around the road, and it drives great. There's no noises, it just kind of hums along. This engine has some power. I really had to watch my speed in this residential neighborhood because, without even knowing it, I was up to 60 miles an hour, which is very cool. I like that idea. And so there's a small crack along the top of the windshield, and Brian points that out. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, would that, interfere with, getting an inspection and things like that? He's like, if it's in your line of sight, it could, potentially interfere with your inspection, passing an inspection. And it wasn't. I mean, really, it's at the very top. I don't think it should be an issue. So I'm driving, we go around the block, and then Brian pulls down the passenger side visor, which I never would have thought to do. I didn't even think to pull down the driver's side visor. I rarely ever use a visor. I'll put on a pair of designer sunglasses and cruise on down. But he pulled it down, and he's like, and I'm not paying attention. I'm just driving, and it's driving beautifully. And I'm getting really excited about, that I'm ready to buy this car. Good deal. And he's like, you may not want to buy this car. I'm kind of dazed out of my cheerful mood. I'm like, why? What's wrong with it? And he has the visor down. There's a syringe stuck in the visor. Well, If this thing was in the drug raid, that would make sense as to why the glove compartment lid was ripped off. Okay. I compose myself. And I'm like, okay. All right. So any normal person, that would be an immediate deterrent. Not me. Not me. Like I said, when I have my mind set on something, I'm going to make it work. All right. So if there's paraphernalia in the car, I can do a clean sweep, get rid of it, no problem. This car drives great. So we get back to the guy's house, and we don't mention the needle. I'm talking to him, and I ask him to pop the trunk. I wanted to see if there were any dead bodies or maybe sacks in there that shouldn't be, that might get me arrested. We pop the trunk, clean, looks pristine. Oh, there's the glove box lid right there. Okay, all right, so I don't have to order that part. I can just kind of put it on, maybe. We'll see how that goes. But, and then I ask him to pop the hood. And, we pop the hood, and the, I don't know what you would call it, the little stick thing, it's a hydraulic stick that is supposed to hold up the hood. He told me right off the bat, that doesn't really work. All right. Well, I never get under the hood, so I don't have to worry about that. That'll be the mechanic's job. And then he proceeds to tell me that, it needs an oil change. I'm like, okay, that's easily taken care of. Now, in looking at an engine, for me, is like looking inside someone's intestines. I have absolutely no idea what's going on or what I'm looking at. I might poke around a little bit to see to make it look like I know what I'm doing. I have absolutely no idea. Aside from knowing how to pull the dipstick out and see how low my oil is, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm kind of looking around, and I notice some wires on the front end of the car under the hood. And I'm like, that's weird. I've never seen that before. And Brian didn't say anything. And I had asked him, he knows a little bit more. Well, everyone knows a little bit more about cars than I do, but he's actually worked on them and several times. So he knows more about what he's looking at. But there's some wires, and Brian didn't say anything. So I didn't really think anything of it. Like, all right, it's an old car. Maybe it was kind of built that way. I don't know. So everything looked fine on the top. So we closed up the hood, and I asked him, the car was listed for $1,900. I'm like, all right, this is a great deal for a car. It's a 2005 Volkswagen Passat with only 153,000 miles on it. Great mileage, well below budget. Aside from, cosmetic issues on the inside, it looks great, it runs great. Perfect. I'm in. I'll throw that needle away later. So I ask him, will you take 17 for it? And he thinks about it for a minute. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. Boom! Boom! I got myself a deal! So, whip out $1,700 out of my wallet, pay them in cash, $100 bills, boom! And I am overjoyed. Now, I get back in the car and it's out of gas. No problem. Gas station just up the road. I'll put $30 in it. I go to the gas station, take the needle out of the passenger side visor and throw it in the trash. Careful not to stick myself. I don't want any diseases or anything like that. And I will throw that away along with the memory of it and everything else. So I throw that away. I go inside. I pay cash for the gas. I'm like, I would like $30 on pump 8 because it has been over a year since I've been able to drive a car. Not having the expense has been fantastic, but having wheels, much better feeling. So I put $30 down on pump 8. I go to the pump, I'm filling it up. Boom, $30 on the dot to fill it up. Cool beans. So next step is to get insurance. I didn't want to drive around without insurance. I've done that before. I hate looking in my rear view mirror. And remember, this is from a private party, so there's no license plate on the back. And from what I understand, as long as I have the bill of sale, title I guess would work, and insurance, I can go 30 days without having registered. So I pull into a parking lot adjacent to the gas station, and I'm trying to call my insurance company, the one that I have the moped under, which I actually need to get rid of because I sold the moped. But I try and call them, and they're closed on Saturday. Would someone explain to me, please, what an insurance company is doing closed on Saturday? This should be their busiest day of the entire week. This is the day that everyone else is off. This is the day that they need to conduct business. No, they're closed on Saturday. Couldn't get a hold of my agent, which I've never even met my agent. I don't even know who he is. And couldn't get a hold of the national company. I'm like, this is insane. So I had cash left in my wallet, and I didn't want to be carrying around that much cash. So I decided, I'm going to drive to the bank. No insurance, mind you. And so I did. I went into Spartanburg to the bank, and I deposited the cash. And then I sat in my car until I got insurance. Now, if you have been watching my videos, you might remember that I had to go to a DUI class thing in order to get my license back. That was one of the stipulations of getting my license back. And inside that little office area, they had cards for insurance companies that worked specifically with DUI cases. So I took a couple of those and I called one of these companies. And, I was talking to the agent, he was really helpful, and I got insurance. It was $140 for liability down payment. Holy hell. And it's gonna be $150 a month for liability. And I asked him, I'm like, I understand that, I had a DUI. I expected it to be a little higher. Why is it so high? He's like, well, I'm looking at your driving record and you have 24 points. What? How is that even possible? There's no way that I could have even gotten my driver's license back with that many points. No one would give me my driver's license back. Apparently Georgia will. Side note. But, during the course of my drinking, I had a couple of accidents, I had a couple of tickets, I got that DUI, and they racked up to 24 points. Whoa. So with a deep breath, I asked him, I'm like, okay, so when are these points going to start falling off? Good news is by mid of next year, the points will start falling off and the insurance should drop. Well, I have to have insurance. I'm just not going to do that anymore. Again. So I went ahead, I took the insurance. Again, taking the first deal I get. Maybe I need to learn that lesson. Don't take the first deal you get. I pay the $140 down. Next month it'll start being $150 a month. But I am going to start looking around because I can, in North Carolina, apparently I can cancel that at any time. Some states, you have to wait 30 or 60 days when starting a new policy to cancel it. apparently North Carolina is not like that. So I'm gonna look around, see if I can find a better rate and try and get out of that as soon as possible. Anyway, so for the past couple of weeks, I've been talking to a guy online, just through Plenty of Fish or one of those sites. And he wanted to meet up yesterday. And I told him, previously, you know what, let me see how it goes. I'm going to be out car shopping and with the family, and I don't know, when we're going to be done with that. But, since we were done early, I text him, I'm like, hey, you want to meet up? And he knows a lot more about cars than I ever will. And so he's offered very sweetly to come and take a look at the car. And and we went and we had lunch, and then he looked under the hood. This is where the trouble started. So the first thing that he noticed was the wiring, which I mentioned earlier. He's like, it looks like someone rewired your headlights. He's like, do they even work? I'm like, well, I think so. I mean, I thought I tested them when I drove the car. I mean, from the inside of the car, they turned on, or at least it said it turned on. So I went and I flipped the little switch, and the headlights did in fact work. Found out later that night, not very good. I can't see more than like 5 feet in front of me unless I have my brights on. So I might just have to drive with my brights on. And he's like, all right. So the next thing he noticed was a belt on the engine. It kind of spins around. It had worn down to about a third of the width that it should be. He's like, you need to get that done immediately. Had I known, had I gone with you to look at this car, I would not have allowed you to drive this even this far. It was like, I don't know, maybe 15 miles away. That has to be done quickly. I'm like, ooh, okay. How much will that usually cost? He's like, well, the belt will run you about $30 and then plus labor. I'm like, okay, easy fix. I can totally handle that. And then he pulled out the dipstick, and it was bone dry. Bone dry. He's like, you need an oil change right now. I'm like, okay, no problem. The guy said that it probably needed an oil change. I was going to do that anyway. And the place that we had lunch in was basically in the Walmart parking lot. He's like, go over to Walmart, or we'll go over to Walmart. You can have it done for like $45. We'll ask about this specific belt. I think he called it a systemic belt or something like that. I don't really know. But so we head over to Walmart and we go inside, and he asks, he's like, hey, do you check systemic belts and things like that? They're like, no. And so I'm like, oh crap. So I'm like, do you know of any mechanics open on a Saturday? That's another thing I've noticed. No mechanics are open on Saturday in the area that I live in. Fortunately, we were in Spartanburg, and there was a mechanic right across the street that was open. So he called him up very nicely and asked if they did that service, changed that belt. And they said yes. Perfect. No problem. Even if, the whole thing cost $150, I still saved a lot of money, and it'll be good as gold. So we take it over to the mechanics, and we get in right away. It's wonderful. It's basically pouring down rain. No one's out and wanting their car worked on. So we pull in, we get in immediately, and they pull the car into the bay. My friend and I are just sitting in the lobby and, getting to know each other, because this is the first time we've ever met. And, just chit-chatting and whatnot. And then in comes one of the mechanics, and he's like, do you own the blue Passat? Yeah. He's like, can you come with me for a minute? That's never a good sign. When your mechanic comes and tells you to come and take a look at this, you're in for it. I'm like, sure. So my friend and I, we go into the bay and we go down the little steps. It's really kind of cool how they have it set up. They actually work underground to look up at the car. So he takes me down the steps and says, here, you need to look at this. And I look up at the car, and this is what I see. It's a ratchet strap holding in the engine. What in holy hell? Who in their right mind would hold an engine in with a ratchet strap and put on Facebook that, oh yeah, it's in perfect working order? I was shell-shocked. I was speechless. I couldn't even form words. I was absolutely blown away. I contacted the seller after composing myself, as a gentleman always does, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to him. I'm like, what is this? There's a ratchet strap holding in the engine. And I wait, and I wait, and I wait, with no response. So I call him, and he answers. All right, well, maybe he's not a total swindler. And I start asking him about it. He's like, oh man, I had no idea. It was my sister's car. I was selling it for, yada, yada, yada. Then I mentioned the drug paraphernalia found in the car. He's like, oh man, I've got no idea. She said she cleaned it out. Okay. Yada, yada, yada. I'm like, well, at this point, I'm considering bringing it back and taking back my money. To which he fell silent. And so he's like, well, I gave the money to my sister because it was her car and I don't have it anymore. It's been less than an hour, maybe more because we had lunch. Maybe an hour and a half or so. And he doesn't have the money anymore. I'm like, well, certainly you can understand my position because I was under the impression that there were absolutely no mechanical issues with this car when I bought it. That's how you advertised it. I wasn't aware of anything, it always worked really well for me. We've only had it for about a year. I don't know what happened to it beforehand. I'm like, well, listen. This isn't going to fly because I now have to pay $600 to have this thing fixed. And he's like, let me talk to my sister and I'll get back to you. I'm like, when will you get back to me? He's like, I'll get back to you. No. You have 15 minutes. And I will be calling you back. Okay, man. All right. I'll talk to my sister and we'll get something worked out. So I wait 20 minutes and I call him back. No answer. And then I call him back again and he answers. He's like, I talked to my sister and, we can give you $200 back. I'm like, I appreciate that. But certainly, you can understand the position I'm in. I bought this car from you, and now I have to pay $600 so the engine doesn't fall out. Yeah, man, I'm really sorry. I didn't know. It always worked really well for us, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And, to get a car with that low of miles under $2,000, you really got a good deal. I'm like, it's not a good deal if I have to pay more money just to make sure the whole thing doesn't fall apart. All right. Well, my sister said that she could give you $200 back. I'm like, what happened to the rest of it? Well, she had to pay some bills. That needle in the car popped in my head. I know exactly where that money went. I shouldn't say that because I don't know exactly where that money went. I'm speculating I know where that money went. I'm like, I want 3. All right, man, I'll talk to my sister and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, are you home now? And at this point, I did not have the car worked on because if I was able to get my money back, I was going to take the car back and, of course, not have any work done on it. And just get my money and get something else, anywhere else, anything else. He's like, well, I'm like, are you home now? No, I'm not home now, but I'll be home in an hour. Okay. So at this point, with the understanding that I was going to get $300 back, I had the mechanics go ahead and, work on the car. It was the engine mounts that were completely gone. So 2 of them, for you mechanics out there. So I'm like, all right, go ahead and do it. If I only have to put $300 into it, well, it would have been $400 with the oil change and that stuff. I'm still under what I had budgeted for. No big deal. So I'm sitting in the waiting room and they're like, well, it'll be about a 5-hour job. I'm like, okay, no big deal. Me and my friend can go and just kind of bum around for a while. And then they come back. And they're like, well, it's not just the engine mounts. It's a power steering pump, a power steering pump. And if you don't, fix this, you're going to continue to have issues with that belt. You're going to have to be in here all the time having that belt replaced. How much is that going to cost me? Oh. Don't worry about it. It's only going to cost like $750. Boom! Okay. All of a sudden, budget blown, gone. But we have financing if you can't pay for it today. Okay. My credit is in the shitter. There is no possible way I'm going to be able to get financing for it. For a piece of gum. Much less now what is, a $1,400 job. Yeah. After everything, $1,500 job. No way. And so I was talking to the mechanic. I'm like, my credit is crap. There is no way I'm going to be able to get approved for this. He's like, everyone gets approved. Okay. Well, I'm not going to get my money back from the car, so I have to do this. And I don't have money to just go out and buy another car and, get what I can get out of this one. I don't have the money right now. So I'm like, all right, let's fill out an application. And he does. And I am approved. I got approved for like $1,800. This is exactly why I wanted to go to a private person, so I could pay the money and not have to make payments. Now, I paid the money and am making payments. All because I fell into a trap of actually believing what someone told me. And that is a big fault of mine. It always has been. I try to see the good in people, and even now, I don't believe that this kid acted maliciously. I don't get that feeling. And I can usually spot a cheat. from a mile away. I've got good sensors for that. All right, so, okay. They're going to fix the engine mounts, and they're going to fix the power steering pump and change the oil. $1,500. I got approved, so I'll deal with that when I have to deal with that. But they can't get the power steering part that day. They wouldn't be able to get it until Tuesday. I can't even get back there until Friday. So this is going to be a process. Oh, and one more thing. What is my absolute biggest complaint about living here? What do I absolutely hate? If you've watched my videos, you probably know the answer. I cannot stand being cold. I hate it. I hate being cold, and it is freezing. And fortunately, the seat warmers work. Thank God, something works on this car. Roast my tush like a Christmas ham. Wonderful. But the heater doesn't work. It just blows out cold air. That's all it is, cold air in my face. So my nipples are freezing and my butt is warm. So I have to ask them to take a look at it. Let me know what it could be, what it is, so I know what that added expense would be. So for the next couple of hours, my friend and I just kind of drive around and talk and get to know each other and you know, shoot the breeze, and you know, we have a good time and whatnot. Several hours later, ahead of schedule, mind you, I am very pleased with the service I got from this mechanic shop, to be notified by phone call that my car was ready. So we go and pick up the car. I knew that they couldn't get the pump done today or that day, so I knew that I would have to come back. Got financing all lined up. Oh no, wait. Before that, step back. Sorry, my friends. Before that, you know, I was in contact or trying to get in contact with this kid who sold me the car because I wanted that money back. I had to recoup some of the cost of what it was going to take to fix. And so I would text him. No answer. And I would text him again. No answer. And then I would call. No answer. And he doesn't have voicemail set up. And then I would call. I'm like, all right, well, I guess this is it. I am out that money. I am going to have to pony up everything for that car. All the issues that I was under the impression was a perfect car. Well, a couple hours later, he did. I sent him one final text, and I knew that it wouldn't help the situation to blow up at him and, you know, berate him and, you know, and do things like that. I knew that it would not help the situation. So my final text to him was, hey, I'm going to be out and about for the next couple of hours. I hope you do the right thing and text me back. Berating him I knew wouldn't work. Maybe I could play to his conscience. Maybe I could, you know, use a little guilt to, you know, help get some of that cost back. And it worked. He texts me back. He's like, I got you. He's like, I'll be home, or I'm home. Come by whenever. So my friend and I, we shoot right back out to his place, and you know, his dad came out and is mumbling something in a different language. And the kid comes downstairs, and again, just from his demeanor and actually being willing to meet me again, kind of tells me he didn't do it maliciously. I really believe he was, and there was $100 in it from his sister for selling the car. So I mean, there was a financial incentive to it, but I don't think he did it like I said, maliciously. I don't really believe that. At least I hope. I choose not to believe that. So, he gives me the money back in 20s. So that money is gone because I paid him in 100s. He gave me $200 back. Now I have to count my blessings because it could have been absolutely nothing. There is a huge thing about buyer beware and things like that, which I think is absolute crap, especially when you're misled into such a disastrous situation. There has to be some sort of protection for buyers. And it got to the point where if I didn't hear back from this kid, I was seriously considering talking to a lawyer to see if there was any legal ramifications I could enact in order to recoup some of that money. But he gave me $200 back, and that's obviously going to have to go to that bill. So we go back, we pick up the car, and they got the engine stabilized. I'll have to go back to get the water pump done, and the heater checked on. But I also noticed, driving into the mechanics, that my little windshield wiper light was on. It needed more fluid. Well, if it needed an oil change, I knew that they would top off all those fluids. No big deal, I didn't worry about it. But I got back in my car after receiving it, and that windshield light, or that windshield wiper light is still on. I'm like, that's weird. And I checked my receipt, and it said that they'd topped it off. So I go back into the shop, and I'm like, hey, the light's still on. And they're like, yeah. The hose that connects the reservoir to the squirty things is broken. I kept my cool really, really well for all those major issues. This little thing, that kind of put me over the edge. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? My head almost exploded. So with a deep breath, I ask him, I'm like, okay, so it's a hose. What are we talking, $30? And he looked at me and he's like, we're not sure. Because if that reservoir, whatever it is cracked or broken, that could be another expensive fix. I'm like, this car would be worth more in the junkyard. It absolutely would be worth more in the junkyard. So, I got my car back. My friend and I had dinner at a wonderful Mexican place, and then I drove home. And my headlights, I can barely see, I mentioned this before, 5 feet in front of me. I am squinting, trying to figure out where the lines are, and I'm hugging the center line on highways just so I can see the white flashes coming towards me, to make sure that I don't get so far over to the other side that I run off the road. Finally, I get home at night, many, many, many hours later, and I plop down on the sofa, and I'm like, I can't wait. I'm so glad this day is over. I'm so glad this day is over. While it's not my most expensive mistake or my most frustrating, I must say this goes down as probably one of the dumbest purchases I have ever made. But I have a car, and when it's all fixed, after thousands, yeah, well, we're up to $1,500 so far. So a $1,700 car that was on the outside looking like a brilliant, beautiful deal has now turned into a $3,200 money pit. A smarter person might have cut their losses and thrown it in the river. I don't know. But I have a car. I hope you enjoyed this, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like, give me a big old thumbs up, comment down below, what car disasters have you experienced in your life? Help me feel not so terrible about this purchase. And subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell when you subscribe so you get notified each time I create a video. I will talk to you soon, my friends. Take care.